I'll just introduce Lorna here. Lorna is one of the gardeners here as well. She's been here about 3 years now.
I know, right?
Something like that. She is a Master Gardener, and what that means is you get certified by Maricopa County Extension Service, and you take a very long class and blah, blah, blah. But however, I think from your experience, you probably could have taught the class.
Well, not in all areas, but it's a 17-week class, and after which to get certified, you do 50 hours of community service in addition to the hours that you do, to get the Master Gardener diploma. We also have another Master Gardener present, Bobby Fisher, who's right there in the baseball cap.
Yes.
She just graduated, and
We got wannabes.
well, we actually have several Master Gardeners here.
Yeah, that's right.
We do.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I am not one. I know
could be.
enough to be dangerous, as I usually say.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I think that's it for right now. But I will come back at the end, and I got some things to go over for you. Some exciting news. Some improvements that are going to be happening here, and you're going to see in real quick.
Well,
so,
okay.
Take it away, Lorna.
Well, welcome everyone to Pearson. We really appreciate the volunteers. I have to tell you, you all do a tremendous job for us because there's so much that has to happen in a garden, and people who don't garden don't understand that it's not like Green Acres where we're out here in sheath dresses and kitten heels, saying Arthur or Arnold. We actually have to dig things, prepare stuff, rip out things, and stay tidy and take care of the bees, take care of the chickens, take care of the front of the garden as well, and do the irrigation, which is all by hand. So today is about the successful spring garden at Pearson. The reason being that this is the time when you're starting to prepare your soil to get ready to plant in February and March. Spring here is the season for fruiting goods, right? Tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, chiles, okra, bush and pole beans, cucumbers, and melons. And those are all things that you can grow successfully at Pearson with just a little bit of planning. So what I want everyone to focus on is remember that with gardening, soil preparation is the magic secret. That's your secret weapon, because soil preparation is going to be what you use wherever you land in the country or in the state. When you first get to a place, you want to see what kind of soil you're working with, because that's going to determine what you add to it and how you cultivate it and grow things in it. So here, in this particular garden, we are fortunate in that these are raised beds. They're not in-ground beds, so we are not plagued with caliche, which is that heavy soil that everyone gets digging in the ground here in Arizona, and we don't have a lot of clay. But because we're usually working with a mixture of raised bed soil, compost, potting soil, etc., each season, because your plants are going to eat what's in the bed, when you rip out the old plants, traditionally we dig in at least 3 to 4 inches of compost into these beds, and also things like composted manure, because the whole key to planting things in the desert is to get them up, keep them healthy, and get them out timely. And in particular, your soil should be both rich and well draining. And when I say rich and well draining, I mean it should contain enough nutrients that your plants stay healthy, because when they stay healthy, they're resistant to pests. And also, when I say well draining, plants do not do well in wet soil. The soil should be moist enough to allow a mixture of water and air around the roots so that your plants can take up the nutrients that are in the bed. So with respect to this season, I traditionally dig in compost, and also things like pumice, perlite, or vermiculite, depending on what's already in your bed. And some of those are things that are designed to keep the space around the roots of your plants and also add to drainage. And these beds are pretty good with respect to drainage, simply because we keep them enriched and we also irrigate them all the time. We water. So the other recommendation I have, because traditionally, Valentine's Day is traditionally when you start to set out the tomatoes here. Between the February 15th, 14th, 15th, and say March 15th is when you set out tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. And the peppers and eggplants, you can fake it a little bit and push that end of season planting out a little closer to March 30th sometimes, because eggplants are virtually indestructible, and they're one of the few things that grows during the heat of the summer here. They don't usually produce very much in the spring. However, in the fall is when you traditionally get a Mongasso huge bumper crop of eggplants in the desert. So when you plant the tomatoes, the eggplants, and the peppers, which are considered nightshade plants, I like to add a little bit of magnesium sulfate, which is also called Epsom salts, because that helps. This is all like chemical and biochemical. It really helps your plants use the nutrients that you have added to the bed. And the other nutrient that is traditionally for fruit-bearing crops is the phosphorus. That's what when you see an NPK on the fertilizer, nitrogen, potash, and phosphorus, and then potassium or potash. You're looking for a balanced fertilizer that has enough of that nutrient, the phosphorus, so that you get good fruiting, good flowering, and good fruiting. That's also why we keep bees here, because the bees are our pollinators, and those are what are going to work on your tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, okra, etc. When you plant them out and you get the blossoms, those blossoms need to be pollinated to be fertilized and produce the fruit. So that's the other reason we do not use pesticides here. We do not use things like Sevin, which is the spawn of Satan. We do not use things that are broad spectrum organic controls either. Like people sprinkle diatomaceous earth sometimes. It is really important that you not sprinkle that anywhere near flowers that bees will go to, because it kills things. So what we traditionally do with the pests that you'll see in the summertime, which are usually here tomato hornworms and grasshoppers, we hand pick those and we throw them to the hens, who will love you forever if you get those to them. The grasshoppers grow huge here because we haven't had a lot of killing frost, so we've had a lot that have overwintered and gotten to be 3 and 4 inches long. And if you keep your bed watered, you will find them, right? So the other thing that I tell everyone to do after preparing your soil properly is to remember how to site the plants in your bed. This garden is sited north-south, basically on an axis, right? North-south, west and east. This is the killing sun. The killing sun in the summertime here comes from the west. So very frequently, if you have a variety of plants in your bed, you're going to want to plant the taller plants to the west and the north of the bed, and view the northwest point, right, at 45 degrees, say, as a vanishing point for your garden. So your garden should slope downwards this way and this way. But the west side is what will shade your garden from the afternoon sun. We also use shade cloths as the season goes on. Once we start hitting over 100 consistently, we traditionally drape shade cloth over the beds, or at least over the western plane of the bed, to keep from frying the plants in it, right? What I also want everyone to do when you start thinking about what you're putting in your bed for spring is to consider the maturation dates. You want to pick short season crops that you can get up and out before the inferno sets in, because traditionally the only things that grow through the summer here, chile peppers like hot peppers, eggplants, okra, and basil, Armenian cucumbers, melons, right? But the fruiting plants, like the tomatoes especially, you want to pick varieties that are closer to 75 or 80 days versus 90 days. Like some of the bigger beefsteak things will take a long time both to set fruit and then to mature. Because once they're green, the green fruits it can take 2 to 3 weeks to ripen. But you want to get things up and out before the heat hits, because traditionally with tomatoes especially, once you start hitting above 90 degrees consistently, you're going to have issues with fruit set. Meaning that your plants are not going to set fruit because that pollen is going to dry out, and it's not going to be of the consistency and of the quality of pollen that's going to actually work to fertilize those flowers, or to pollinate the flowers and to create that embryo, right? The seeds and the fruit. So definitely always be mindful of the temperatures. And here also, get your plants in earlier rather than later. You're always going to be, now that we've had a lot of warming, and I can say that because I've gardened in this town for over 20 years, we no longer have the sort of winters and falls that we had before. We actually used to get frosts, and we used to not warm up as quickly, whereas a couple of years we've had 90 degrees in February, which is bananas, and which is going to cause all of these like brassicas and stuff to bolt, like your broccoli, your cauliflowers, bok choy, everything's going to send up flower stalks because that's the end of their season. But with respect to planting for the springtime, you definitely want to get your plants in earlier, get them established and healthy before that heat starts to beat on them, right? So when I also recommend is to use transplants for the peppers, the tomatoes, and the eggplants, because that's traditionally how you will plant those here in the desert. Some people in places like California, where they have a more temperate climate, can actually plant those tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants from seed. And also in agricultural areas that, again, don't hit our high temperatures, they have a longer window to get those plants up. Here we don't have that window, so definitely I grow my own transplants, so mine are right now on the heat mats and under grow lights at the house, and I'll be ready right around the beginning of March to set everything out. And we do have a greenhouse here that we use for that as well, to grow our seedlings, because it's much cheaper. If you set out 50 or 60 plants of different types, it is wicked expensive to buy 50 or 60 transplants at one of the big box stores, whereas to grow them at home, after a certain point you have all the equipment and you just buy more potting soil or transplant medium every year, right? And the seeds. That also allows you to control the varieties that you plant, because usually these big box stores are picking varieties that work for the majority of states in the United States, which of course are not here in Satan's Crotch, Arizona, right? They're Ohio and Indiana and places where you have frost until March maybe, or April perhaps, and you're setting out tomatoes in June. Not necessarily what we need here. So some of the smaller tomatoes traditionally do well here, that they don't crack in much the same way the bigger ones do. There are going to be some seeds that you plant in the spring, starting around February, right, that you traditionally plant out from seed because they don't do well having their roots disturbed. So I noted in one of the handouts that traditionally we direct seed beans, squash, cucumbers, and melon, like the cucurbits or the melons, the cucumbers. The bigger seeds, those are easy to plant from seed. Of course, each seed you can see it, and you can plant them, and then we thin out. You know, you plant things like you can plant them in hills here in these beds. They usually take about 3 feet by 3 feet, so you can stick them in the corners of your beds, and then when the vines start to form, the vines will just drape over the side of the bed, versus planting them in the very center of your bed and having it take over the whole thing, right? So that's what I ask everybody to try to have some of a strategic planting idea in mind. When you sit down, I'm retentive, so I use graph paper, and I sit and I write out what I'm putting in so that I know where it's going to go in the bed, so that I maximize the space here. For the same reason, I've given everyone a square foot gardening map, or for spacing, to say how much you can get in one bed. The reason being, this isn't like planting in an in-ground bed where you might be walking on your soil. You're never going to walk on this. And traditionally you plant rows in cornfields, etc., because you're going to either run a cultivator through there, or in a home garden that you got an acreage or the back 40, you're going to walk through there with a hoe to take the weeds out. Here, these are designed so that you can reach in from each side of the bed. At no point is the center of your bed more than arm's length away. So you can plant as close as you want to, because you're going to get down here and reach in and pull out weeds. So you can really get a heck of a lot of food out of these beds. At 32 square feet, I think I've grown as much as 30 pounds of squash out of one of these one summer. And right now that's about a gas tank worth of squash, I think. But it's, you can grow a lot of food. The other thing I recommend, in addition to planting vegetables in your beds and herbs, plant things for the pollinators. Whether that means you plant flowers, buy some of those pony packs and stick in things around your vegetable plants. You want bright colors to draw in the pollinators, because that's what they're going to see. They're going to fly past your bed and say, oh, okay, orange flowers, yellow flowers, red flowers. And then once they're in the bed, they'll pollinate the flowers that are forming in your vegetables for this season. I also plant tons of basil because I let it go to seed. Basil grows like a weed here, or some people say basil, grows like a weed here, and it's very easy to grow from seed. You don't have to buy it at the big box stores for $3 for one little plant. Buy the packet of seed and just sow it everywhere. I just sprinkle it throughout my beds. So by the time your tomatoes are getting any size on them, or your squash plants, etc., the basil is already up and it's available. Of course you can eat it, but you also let some of it go to seed, to flowers, to draw the bees in here. What you will also do here is watering regularly. That is the magic secret also, because when you sow directly, when you put seeds in, you definitely want to be sowing, well, you want to sow the seeds at the appropriate depth, meaning do not bury them. If they're tiny seeds, you basically scratch the top of the soil, sprinkle them in, scratch it again, and tamp it down, and then use some of the finer watering cans here that have the rose with the perforation on the front of it, so that when you water, you're not rinsing your seeds out into one corner of your bed. And you water consistently every day, usually when it's hot, to get those seeds up. Now you could push it because it's cooler, and water every other day till your seeds come up. Once the plants are established, again, in the summertime, once we get above 95 every day, we usually water every day or every other day. That's the other reason I recommend that people plant closely here, because the more coverage of the soil you have, the less evaporation you're going to get. So if you water a bed that has lots of things in it, those leaves are shading the soil, and the sun is not going to be able to get that water to evaporate off the soil surface as quickly. So you can spread out your watering a little bit. But the whole point being, again, to keep your plants as healthy as possible. That way they remain pest and disease resistant. If you have weaker plants, those tend to be a magnet for anything in the neighborhood. Usually tomato hornworms. We get spider mites here in the summertime when things dry out. And of course the grasshoppers. Anything to add?
When pests?
Yeah, well, in terms of this season, what do you...
Well, Joyce is a pest.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Joyce.
Yep.
No.
Oh, sorry.
That's, yeah.
I have to stand next to you.
We have to be close
mic.
personal friends
Right,
here
that mic.
for the microphone. A couple things. Well, the tomatoes, which is the question that I get constantly. Tomatoes. A couple things. One, do not buy a tomato cage. I have like 60 tomato cages back there that you can use. Do not spend extra money on that, all right? I have those. The next class, which is February 21. February 21, Melissa, Dr. Peoples, will be here again, but this time she's bringing all of those tomato starts that she brought. I've already ordered them for everybody. Okay, so they're here. She's going to bring some peppers too. These are all seeds that she's grown. Though for a lot of us, we've used her tomatoes for a number of years. And when Lorna says smaller ones, they're mostly the yellow bells or the cherry tomatoes. So some Juliets in there and some other kinds that she really recommends. So keep that in mind. That's the next class that we're going to have.
Well, and with the tomatoes, honestly, the varieties, you can grow the bigger tomatoes here. I do, Melissa does. However, we grow them at home and we have drip irrigation on timers and all sorts of tweaking. Because we hand water here, your likelihood of cracking bigger tomatoes is a possibility of 1 out of, it's going to happen, right, out of 1. So
don't try heirlooms here unless you really are experienced. Go with the smaller ones, because I know a lot of you here are new-ish gardeners, so I want you to be successful for that. If you had tomatoes in your plot and you didn't cover the last night, like me, all your tomato plants that you had in there got frosted, and I'm going to have to pull them, which is fine because you want to put them in later.
Right, yeah.
Now, Lorna mentioned some additives to the soil. Jerry and I were talking the other day. He's another gardener. He's not here. But I want to go buy some steer manure. The Epsom salt is already in there. You mentioned that. It's in the red shed for you to use. You could use the soil at Costco, but we're going to have some compost over there that you can use that we've been making all year round. Add a little food in there for your plants. That's what you should be doing anyway. There's also some fish emulsion, but I don't think you need that just yet. But you'll need that soon. Okay, so everything you need to garden is in that red shed. Another special announcement that I want to say, and she just walked in. You might not know, is that Connie, our beekeeper, had to leave. So she left and she took her beehive with her right at the end of the year. But they're making a reappearance. And one of our gardeners, Julie, who has this garden up here, she is
She's right there.
learning to be an apiarist, which is a beekeeper. So the beehive is going to make another appearance on Monday, right? It's coming back. So we're going to have our beehive here, and that's what you need, like Lorna said, for all of these fruiting plants, these things that you want to eat, all of your melons, your squashes, your tomatoes, the cucumbers, all of that stuff, okras, anything that has a little flower that you want. So that's coming up. Thank you, Julie. Julie has offered to do that for us. But but the big thing is move it. Before I kind of hid it back in the corner, right? Nobody really knew it was there unless I showed you where the bees were. They're going to be over here next to the toilets, the non-functioning toilets.
Right.
Okay, that are over here. And for all of you community service people, that's one of the projects this morning, is to create the space for the beehive. Okay, so that's coming. I told you about the class. We have another class in March that was suggested by someone here about SRP and where does our irrigation water come from. So they're going to bring up their whole little show out here to show us all about the water. On March 4th is the Melrose Festival, which is Melrose is over here on 7th Avenue and Campbell to Indian School, basically. And they close down the street, and we're going to have a booth there, and we're going to be selling more of our plants that are here. Last year we did great. That's one of our fundraisers, so I invite you to come for that. Key Feeding's Beautiful, of which my partner in crime is sitting right there with the hat on, Michaela. And we are going to do a lot with the Super Bowl. So for cleanups and recycling and God knows what else we're doing. I don't know. Yeah, wave. Anyway, so Michaela and I might not be here a lot. So I will let all of you guys know when I'm here and when I'm not. Michaela and I are here. So anyway, but we should be here. Let's see. Anything else? Did I forget anything else? We still have some jelly left if you want to purchase some. I sold 2 yesterday. So I have 4 left in the car. So four more jars of jelly. That came from our pomegranate. Those are $5 a jar, Lucas. For you, 6. Lorna started it off. Well, I heard her talking to a gentleman here. We need volunteers. We thank you you were talking at the beginning. Anybody that can help us with chickens or composting or worms, or we always have our second Saturday is our volunteer day. It's on the calendar as such. Which we bring people that want to help. I have them in here, but as we get into the hotter seasons, we won't have these gigantic groups of people. And that's when we need the people, is in the summertime. So to help water and all those types of things.
Yeah, because then people go on vacation and sometimes they need help with watering their beds, because here your plants can go from looking great to in a day and a half. Honestly, if you're not watching what's going on, they can start to have heat stress, and you'll see them start to wilt, and then that's it. It's a write-off. Boom.
Yep.
So
if you're interested in anything, let me know. I know everybody's in the I want to volunteer mode right after the first of the year. So I'll sign you up and get you started. For the first time since the house left, and when I say that, only some of you remember the house that was here, we are full. So every bed is occupied. That's super wonderful for me. I haven't achieved that since we've been here. So I actually have to start taking a waiting list. So please, still people that want to garden, don't turn them away, because I know at the 1st of April, people will start dropping off because it gets too hot.
Right.
That reminds me for two things. One is that I'll be sending you a note to make sure that you're going to continue for the next phase, which will be from April 1 to October 1.
Yep.
And that's when we do the payments for the $5 a month. So I'll be sending just to make sure that you're still going to be here.
Yeah.
Because what I hate to see is a bed not used.
Well, yeah, especially now because of what food prices are doing. Truthfully, I tell people, even if you have an apartment and you got a terrace that gets sun, buy grow bags and grow something, because even having herbs or lettuces or radishes and scallions beats paying for them, because people they're bringing some pain at the grocery store.
And those are all things that are fairly, I'll say, easy.
Oh yeah,
to grow.
Yeah, very easy.
Let's see, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, I forgot. Oh, yes, now I remember. Because I sold that last bed, which they will be here on the 28th of January, next Saturday.
Yep.
I have a bed over there that I need to harvest. So if you are interested in greens, there is some radishes in there too. Just see me, or Jerry's not here, but I'll do it for you. We'll cut them off and give it everything. I want them eaten.
Of course,
I
not
don't want
wasted.
them just to go to waste.
Yeah.
I'll be interested.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We'll do that at the end.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of us that are gardeners here, we have buku greens.
I know, right?
I mean, we can only eat so many greens.
Seriously. That was going to be one of the door prizes. I was going to cut some cabbages and bring them with me.
So the gardeners that are normally here, we are on a communication site called GroupWorks. And you've been seeing some of the things they say, congratulations, Angel, for blah blah, or Daniel, or whatever. Last one was Alan up here, and he had those gigantic cauliflowers that were like this. Even Michaela's been on there, the brand new gardener. She had her
She had rockin' broccoli.
broccolis that are around
Yeah.
there. So just keep sending me pictures. One of the things that I wanted to do, and I haven't been doing really well, is what do you use all this stuff for? You know, show me in the salad that you make, the soup that you make, roasting stuff. Whatever. Just send it to me, and we could share it.
Well, and I was going to say, also feel free to always ask questions. Some of us used to cook for a living before we were dragooned into practicing law. So in terms of most vegetables here, if you really at a loss to what the heck to do with it, throw it in the oven with some olive oil and salt and roast it at 400 until you like it, you know. And the green stuff, you can steam it, you can saute it, you can stir fry it, you can dehydrate it and put it in smoothies. You can just stick it in your blender with your smoothies in the morning. If people are taking protein powder because things have gone south because of the pandemic, you do that too. And of course, salads for everything. You know, we like to be a resource here, because that's the whole idea, is to encourage people who've never grown before or who grew in another climate to learn how to do it here. To help the health of their families, because those are the three things. One of the groups that came here for our fair that we had was it a month ago, 2 months ago? About a month ago.
Yeah.
The three things that are plaguing Arizona right now at a community level are obesity, diabetes, and substance abuse. Those three things. So gardening helps with all of those. And that's what I try to tell people, that's the biggie.
That's right. Just not physical health, but also mental health. We have several people here just coming here to get away from it all, from the craziness. And just, anyway, but if you have a question, you can always use GroupWorks to ask the question. Lorna has been very helpful because she's a master gardener, and you can ask her questions.
I'm usually here. Once I've had enough of my clients, I come out here and water or weed.
Joyce is back there.
Yep.
She's very quiet, but Joyce knows a lot about gardening.
Yep.
And she can answer your questions for you.
Yep.
Anyway, yes, Julie.
I was just going to say sauerkraut is super easy to make.
Yes.
Salt and cabbage.
That's it.
Cabbages being harvested.
Yeah.
You can do it within a couple of weeks, and it's delicious.
Yeah, and a clean. Yeah, she's talking about lactic acid fermentation. So a lot of it boils down to That's all you really need. Not iodized salt and not the chlorinated water that comes out of your tap, but you need to boil your equipment and make sure your equipment is super clean. But we do pickles that way with either, you can do the brassicas into a sauerkraut, you can make kimchi with some of the Napa cabbages that people are growing. You can, in the summertime, I made pickles this last year with pickling cucumbers, lactic acid fermentation for garlic dill pickles. Absolutely fantastic, very healthy probiotics for your gut. And you can pickle virtually any vegetable that way. I actually pickled a bunch of okra, lactic acid fermented it last summer. So yeah.
Not one of my favorites, but yeah. To each his own.
Yes, exactly.
Same way with the arugula.
Oh, I know. That's just it.
All right. You want to do the
Sure. I mean,
door prize?
has
I'll
everyone
let you do that.
has everyone taken
Has everyone taken one of these?
one of
little
these
tags?
a tag? If you haven't,
Oh,
yeah,
that's good.
take one. No, this side, because then I pull off of this side to know who's got what, and I'll put it in the. Then you get to pick stuff. If you pick something, then you get to. Then yep, those are all the.
I was trying to clean out stuff in my house, and I found this Arizona low desert.
If you pick off this
flower
side,
garden.
yeah. I know.
Very good.
Yeah, do please.
Even recommended by you.
Absolutely. Well, Kiri Mathura is one of the doyens of desert gardening. She works a lot at the Desert Botanical Garden here, which is a great resource.
And then you have a bunch of seeds.
A bunch of seeds of things you can plant now, like beets, scallions, turnips, Pan-Pacific stir-fry mix, which is really good. That's like mustard greens. It's got Asian mustards, bok choy in there, and it grows quickly. And if you want to see what it looks like, it's planted in the bed right behind us. At the very far left, that's my bed, and in the south, well, in the northwest corner is what this is, so you can see what it looks like. And there's also a packet of radishes, and this you'll be able to start planting in February. This is basil seeds, not the smooth-leaved one you usually see here, but these are excellent.
Wow.
Es semillas de albahaca, right? That these are basil seeds, and this thing will grow like a weed, right? So I plant those everywhere. There's also some garden journals that's the other piece. Take notes. If you're old like me and you are an amnesiac, write down what you're doing so that you can refer to it in the future and go back and say, oh, that was last year when I grew that absolutely horrible tasting whatever. Like I write sometimes, don't plant this again, or I write must plant, right? So we just want you to have the tools to be successful and have your garden help you as much as it can, because really, I think it's an important skill for everyone to have. And if you have children, I think it's a very important thing for them to know how to grow their own food. We've gotten very far away from that, and as a result, we're dealing with lifestyle illnesses. That, I mean, there's medication and then there's medicine, right? And medicine sometimes, I believe, is good food. And coming straight from your garden, this is going to be more nutritious than things that have been cut 500 miles away and shipped here. That you cut it that morning and you put it on your table at lunch or dinner, right? It doesn't get easier than that.
All right. Before we pick the winners,
Yes,
there's also paper clips if anybody wants.
No, thanks. Yeah, right. Sorry, I just have to do this, right?
Any questions?
Peppers, scallions, green onions. That's gone.
Yes.
Black traits.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to
green
the
onions.
It's unlocked.
Yes. Okay.
Kayla's taking care of that.
Okay.
I was wondering,
Tomatoes.
when is the time to get your winter things out? Or like when
Yeah,
did you
sunflowers, winter
decide
squash,
to-
okay.
A lot of it depends on what you're going to plant.
Yeah, you can do it now. I mean, yeah.
Some of the things that we planted in October, she wanted to know when is the time to take all the stuff you put in.
Okay.
The bok choys, for example, you should have had them out already. I left mine in too long. They've flowered.
Yeah, but.
And so now they're a little bitter and not as
Beans,
tender
eggplant,
as they were.
intermediate
Some
cucumbers.
things like the cabbages are growing.
Okay. Yep.
You know, and the cauliflower, like Alan just did his, and he and I were talking. He waited just maybe a few days too long because it started to kind of break apart. 'Cause what you're
yeah.
eating is the flour.
Yeah. If you leave the cauliflower, what happens? It will ricey, what they call ricey.
right.
The head starts to separate, and that will also happen when the heat hits. So if you know they're expecting hot weather in the coming week,
Cut it.
harvest it.
cut it.
Yep.
Goes with the broccolis.
Mhm.
Just cut the heads off, and it will keep. I call it, or sending out new
Yep.
flowers, and you can eat those. That's what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Well, yeah, the broccolis will send out side shoots. You'll see the little tiny bud forming in the juncture of your stem and the main branch. Leave it alone. When you cut the main head, the side shoots will keep growing, especially if you keep it watered and maybe throw some fish emulsion on it. And the side shoots are like what they sell in the store as
Right.
broccolini that cost $4 a pound.
Right.
That.
It's just immature
Yeah.
broccoli. All right, here we go.
Okay.
So your root vegetables, Jenny, if the shoulders are out, it's
You're almost,
time.
yeah.
So what that means, you can see part of the radish, you see the beet or the
Yep.
turnip. It's time.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. First one is bok choy.
Right here.
Yay,
Yeah.
Daniel, come on over here.
Yep.
You pick, Daniel.
It's whatever, the seeds, the garden journals, the books, whichever.
I want this book.
Yeah, excellent.
Yes,
Excellent
good choice.
choice.
Yes.
Melons. Who's melons? MEL.
Oh,
No one?
melon. Nobody's got melon? Let's see, make sure
Corn.
this lady who's coming back is not, oh, corn. Okay.
Ah,
Everybody. Okay.
well, pick her up.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Any of those right up there.
Yeah, any of this stuff, any of the garden journals or seeds.
Winter squash. Come on up here. Excellent.
It's a good choice.
Perfect.
Nice. Yes.
The whole family up here has
winter
those
squash.
beds right up there. The one that has
Any
the
of the
pumpkins in it.
Books or
things
the,
like that.
the seeds.
They also are
Oh, sure.
connoisseurs of the moringa trees behind me.
Yep. Oh, that's that, right? Yep.
Oh, we already did that one. That was twice. Ooh, that's a good one. He's a seed guy, I know that. Okay, watermelon.
That's Michaela. Yeah.
Michaela, yay! What do you-
Seems kind of rigged.
Rigged.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Whichever.
You can take the paper clip if you feel guilty.
Yep.
She's still looking. The next one is scallions.
That's a good choice. Yep.
Yay, Julie.
Yep.
Armenian cucumbers.
It's
All right, Joyce.
just, yep. The journal or any of this stuff. Yep.
You have nasturtiums up there?
I don't. That's just radishes and golden beets.
Oh, okay.
Golden beets.
Got the book.
Golden beets, scallions, purple top, and then radishes, whichever. Yeah. And what we need to do still while we're here is put out the rest of those seeds. we
Oh,
got in
yeah. That's good. I forgot about that. We have a whole bunch of seeds in there that are old. So what Lorna recommends, or I recommend, put several of the seeds in there just to see what comes up, because they may not be viable anymore. So you just want to give yourself a. If not, I'm going to give them away at the Melrose Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Eggplant. Lucas. We're almost out, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
This is going to.
Oops, sorry.
You only got 3 more in here.
Oh, I know. I'm like, whoops.
4 more.
Oh.
Beets. Jenny.
You go
Oh,
first.
I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, it's
Those
just
seeds right there.
those are seed packets. Yep.
Or the paper clip.
Yeah, that's right.
Trying to give away those paper clips.
Oh, is those scallions?
Those are scallions. Those are scallions.
These are
Mhm.
scallions? I've been waiting for scallions. Thank you.
Yep. And the golden,
Summer squash.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the beets are the good ones. I grow those at home. I have 2 grow bags full of those beets right now, and they're really nice because they taste very sweet. So I roast them, and plus those beet greens are delicious. Yeah.
One more, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Turnips. Yep.
tomatoes.
Tomato.
Well,
There you
it's-
go.
You got radish seeds, basically.
All right,
Or I could-
that's all of our
I could-
door prizes.
I could throw a cabbage in. If you want, if you want a cabbage, I could hook you up.
Okay, thank you.
I know I have one
All right.
in that bed.
Thank you very much for being here this
Thanks.
morning.
Thank you.
at
Yeah,
our
if you're here a
class.
minute, I'll just grab my knife and I'll get it for you.
Okay.
Yep.
If you notice, here we have a cameraman, Michael. Thank you very much, Michael. For those that weren't here, I am going to put that on YouTube. Or he's going to, and I will just link it. Watch it again if you need to. Other websites to use. Website gives you an enormous amount of information. You can also Google. Just remember, we're in Zone 9E. We're not Minnesota. We're not Ohio. We're not New York. Florida even. California. We're very unique in terms of the weather. So look at that on that site. All right. Thank you very much for coming this morning.
Yay!
All right.